Hi there. It's Friday, February 3rd. So today we get a chance to look at the first seven plagues, or wonders as they are called. And for most of us, we're pretty familiar with them. In fact, all of a sudden I conjured up this picture and image of Charlton Heston. But be that as it may, there are a number of things that strike me today in our readings, and some of them are things I really had not noticed before. So let me share them with you. And by the way, just a reminder, looking forward to your thoughts as well, so feel free to comment. But anyway, first of all, we tend to focus so much on the plagues themselves that I never stop to realize that really the most amazing miracle taking place here is that God is able to free a whole people group from the bondage of sin under the most powerful government in the world at that time. So often we see the plagues and we think about the plagues, but we miss the greater miracle there. God intercedes on behalf of his people, freeing them from bondage. Now, the second thing that struck me today was, and I guess I'd always thought of the plagues and always thought of being able to identify them, but what's interesting is that the plagues seem to rise in intensity and focus as we move along. If you remember the first two, were able to be mimicked by Pharaoh's magicians. So it's not hard for us to see how Pharaoh would say, who cares? My people can do that. He was not swayed at all. But then come the lice and the flies, and here Pharaoh's own magicians acknowledge that this must be a supernatural thing. They are not able to do it. Yet even that, Pharaoh, while he may seem to be starting to crack a bit, as he allows Moses and Aaron off into the wilderness to offer sacrifices, he also asks them to intercede on his behalf. But he still has a hard heart. Then we come, thirdly, to the next two plagues, the pestilence and the boils upon man and beast, the pestilence to the cattle and other animals. Now, what's happened is Pharaoh's own magicians are affected by the plagues. So really God starts notching things up even a little bit more. And they are now at the mercy of these things. In fact, they can no longer even stand up to argue with Moses or stand in front of him because they are so affected by it. So we come to the seventh plague, which is the hail. And by now, of course, the Egyptian leaders are powerless, can only appeal to Pharaoh to give in. And interestingly, at this point, Pharaoh does, or at least so it would seem. Yet even as he says to Moses and Aaron, then Pharaoh quickly summons Moses and Aaron, and he says, "This time I have sinned," he confessed. "The Lord is right, the righteous one, and my people and I are wrong." So we would think, great. What's interesting is that then just a couple of verses later in chapter 9, here's Moses' response. He quickly says, "But I know that you and your officials still do not fear the Lord." Moses seems to be well aware that this isn't going to change his mind. And sure enough, as we find out, Pharaoh's heart is hardened once again. Well, this brings me to some things for today that I was thinking about, and the first one is I tried to really see the bigger picture of what's going on here with Pharaoh. And the realization is, I think, Pharaoh, for our benefit, represents anyone or anything that would attempt to stand in the way of God's will, large or small. The point is, no one can and nothing will. And this is a great example of how that plays out, or what happens to those who would attempt to do so. And so it would be good for us to take that to heart. And also, as Pharaoh, the last few plagues, begins to start bargaining back and forth with God, I think it also, from God, comes to us very clearly that he's not interested in bargaining with us. The reality is we have no chips to ante in here. He holds all the cards, and he's got the game well in hand, and we really have nothing to offer. And he asks us, and he desires for his creation to submit to his will, to call on his name, and to trust him alone in all things. He doesn't give us another option. And I think that's a good thought for today, and it's certainly something I'm going to be pondering. Am I placing myself under God's authority? Or do I harden my heart in certain areas of my life? If so, where? And what do I need to repent and pray about to God and say, Lord, help me in this area, and help bring it under your control. I'm sure there are those areas, and I need to pray about that and consider that carefully. I wonder about you as well. And so with that in mind, enjoy your pondering today, and we'll talk to you again soon.